Sydney for the first of our televised races of the afternoon. The AJC, as they do every year, have named today's events after those poor wretches who perform one of sport's most thankless tasks, the race callers. Johnny Tapp, am I right?
Good on you, Mike. Yes, I think you'd have to call it a thankless task, Mike. Going back on my 20 years in the business, I can't remember too many occasions where people have come along and given you a slap on the back and said, well done. But I can remember many dozens of occasions where they've come along to remind me that I've picked the wrong horse in a photo finish, or that I've called the wrong horse in the run, or made some other maladjusted statement during the running of a race. To say that little sympathy is extended to race callers, I think is certainly an understatement. Jeff Marnie, after whom this race was named, commenced duties in 1946 on 2UE in Sydney as understudy to the late great Ken Howard, and Jeff took over as course commentator on the Sydney Metropolitan tracks in 1958 after the passing of the late great Lockie Melville. So Jeff's had a long and distinguished career, and in fact I can hear his dulcet tones right at the moment outside our commentary box on the course broadcasting system. Ray Hadley hasn't been in the business very long, but he's already learned that it's a thankless old task, race broadcasting.
Thank you very much, Tappy. I hardly concur. From the top, String of Pearls at 7-2, Perfect Jet at 5-2, Volley Row at 13-2, Trick Gold 11-1, Masala Sun at 9s, Bo Jacob 33-1, Just for Tristram at 20s, My Castellan at 15-2, Santaniaco 9-1, Brother Nero 25s, and Sharp Star at 200-1. Let's see if this is a bit more thankful for you, John.
Righto, Ray, they're set and ready to go. The day started out a beauty at Warwick Farm, blue skies and plenty of sunshine, but now it's clouding up and looking a little bit threatening and extremely overcast as they get into the gates, and now they get out of the gates. They're off and running in the Jeff Marnie handicap. Marsala's Son from the inside about the first out. Brother Nero in search of the lead was the old girl, String of Pearls. There she is in the all-green colours, cruising along in the centre of the track, and little Aaron Hugh will go to the lead in a moment. There she goes now, and String of Pearls in her favourite role took over the running from Brother Nero. Santaniaco third. He wants to climb a little bit with his action, Santaniaco, as they go out of the straight, and then Bo Jacob and Perfect Jet, followed by Marsala's Son. Further back, the New Zealander Mike Castellan. Volley Row is 3 deep on the turn out of the straight. On the fence is Sharp Star. Second last, Trick Gold, and back at the tail, Just for Tristram. At the 1600 mark, down the Hume Highway side of the track, and String of Pearls being allowed to stride along in front under the 3 kilo allowance. It's String of Pearls 2.5 in front of Brother Nero. Bo Jacob third on the inside of Santaniaco, pulling a bit, and about 4 lengths away, Perfect Jet on the outside of Marsala's Son. Volley Row's out 3 deep and has been from the outset on the outside of Mike Castellan and Sharp Star. 1.5 lengths to Trick Gold, and 2.5 away last, Just for Tristram. 1100 out, and String of Pearls is picking him up and putting him down in bowl fashion. Bo Jacob getting closer now in second place, is going up to put a bit of pressure on that leader. I think the saddle has shifted on Bo Jacob, running third, Brother Nero. In fourth spot, Santaniaco. Trick Gold is parked out 3 deep on the top turn, and then Perfect Jet, Marsala's Son, Volley Row, Sharp Star, Mike Castellan, and Just for Tristram at the tail of the field. 800 out. I think the only hope they had of beating this mare was to put some pressure on, and they're up there trying to do just that, although String of Pearls again got away from them, led by 1.5 lengths now on Brother Nero, followed closely by Bo Jacob. Trick Gold off the track, Marsala's Son hard ridden, and then Volley Row, Perfect Jet well back in the field. Sharp Star with Mike Castellan, Just for Tristram, and Santaniaco dropped out to be last of all. On the turn, String of Pearls in front by more than 1 length to Bo Jacob. The old girl's got them struggling, and on the turn, String of Pearls kicked away, shifted ground a little bit, led by 2 lengths on Bo Jacob. Perfect Jet coming out of the pack, looks the only danger, if any. Marsala's Son on the fence, running on well. String of Pearls got a second win. She's in front with 100 to go. Perfect Jet hard ridden by Quinton, trying hard to pick her up, but the bonny old mare, String of Pearls, is going to lead all the way, and it's a beaut win to String of Pearls. Perfect Jet got second, third Volley Row, then Just for Tristram and Mike Castellan, Marsala's Son, Sharp Star, Bo Jacob, well back Trick Gold, and the early leader Brother Nero folded up and tailed off his Santaniaco. Well, I think most form students agreed that when you went through the form for that race, upside down, left to right and sideways, you kept coming back to String of Pearls, because even though she had top weight, she looked to have done much, much more than the other horses in that race. She just loves to lead, and Warwick Farm is a leader's track. That's been proven time and time again. And this little boy certainly understands the mare too, Aaron Hugh. She's going to pay handsomely. Odds of 7-2 on the tote, $2.30 and $1.05, $2.30 and $1.05. Now that's her third win from her last 4 starts. And yet, amazingly, before the first of those 3 wins recently, she hadn't won a race in about 14 or 15 months. So to say she struck a purple patch is an understatement. Now, trainer Pat Murray was going to use today's race as a barometer to see whether or not he'd take the mare to Brisbane for the 4X Cup in a fortnight's time, and I think the ease of today's win will certainly prompt Pat Murray to take her north. String of Pearls, a bay mare by Charlton out of Choufleur, trained by Pat Murray, raced by Mrs. Pat Murray with Mr. M.R. Osborne and ridden by Aaron Hugh. Perfect Jet second, Ron Quinton, and Volley Row will get third, ridden by B. Parnell. So they finished the way the handicapper said they would, numbers 1, 2 and 3. The race to follow is the Keith Dunbier handicap, named after a man who covered most sports in radio, commencing with 2UW way back in 1937. I refer to Keith Dunbier, not in the best of health currently, but pleasingly he is at Warwick Farm today to watch the race named in his honour. You'll see that race live at 25 after 3. Now let's see what Ken Callender thinks about the likely outcome of it.
In race 6, the Keith Dunbier handicap, I'm going away from the horses that have been tipped in the newspapers, horses like City Prince, Chez Paris and Final Charge, and I've come up with TAB number 4, Winged Prayer. On the strength of 2 very good wins at Goulburn and at Canterbury, Winged Prayer started a 7-4 favourite at Rosehill last start, but she could come in only 5th to Francette. However, that run wasn't too bad. She missed the start, was then trapped wide, and I think she got to the line pretty well. Today, I don't think she'll miss the start. She's got Shane Dye riding her instead of Craig Rickson. I think she'll be just sitting on the pace all the way, and the 1400 metres, that'll certainly suit her. I reckon she's worth a buck or 2.
OK, Ken, and we'll see what happens at 25 after 3 in the Keith Dunbier handicap at Warwick Farm. You'll see that race live and plenty of other action on Wide World of Sports.
Let's go! And here we are back at Warwick Farm for race 6 on the card, the Keith Dunbier handicap. And Johnny, if I had a hair on my head for every race that Keith has called, I tell you what, I wouldn't be as bald as I am today.
No, you're so right, Mike. Keith started with 2UW in 1937, where he covered all sports as well as racing. He actually assisted the late Cyril Angles on the race broadcasting. And then Keith took over as the 2UW race caller in about 1945 when Cyril moved on to 2GB. When you look back on the movements and the activities of the race callers of the 30s and 40s, it was almost like a game of chess. They seemed to move from station to station, invariably swapping places with one another, and it was quite intriguing back in those long-forgotten eras. Keith Dunbier hasn't been in the best of health. In fact, he underwent surgery earlier this year, but I'm tickled pink to report he's present here today at Warwick Farm, and he looks very well indeed. The race coming up is for 2-year-olds. It's over 1,400 metres. There have been a few horses backed in the race, and I notice, talking again about race callers and their frustrations, there are 2 in the race whose colours are almost identical, Lady of the Castle and Listen Easy. So while Ray Hadley does the totes, I'm going to have a look for a white blaze or a white snip or some other distinguishing mark to try and separate these 2.
You do exactly that, John Tapp. We'll have a look at them from the top. City Prince at 6-1, Lady of the Castle 15-2, Chez Paris at 13-8, the favourite, Winged Prayer well back, Kenny Callender's tip at 15-4, Academy Miss at 25-1, Armament 66-1, So Will I at 10-1, Final Charge at 6-1, Listen Easy at 25-1, Red Chimes at 100-1, Luskin Galaxy 80s, King Crony at 400-1, and Like a Risk at 200-1. John, just speaking of Keith Dunbier, it was my pleasure to speak some 10 minutes ago with Keith. As you pointed out, he has been ill in recent times. He's feeling great today and said he's in 100% health, and he's looking forward to having a look at the horses go around in the race named in his honour.
Righto, Ray, great. And now with the barrier stalls locked into position, they're getting into the gates for the Keith Dunbier handicap. This starts from the relatively new 1,400-metre chute, and it's certainly a different ball game now from the new starting chute here, because they can win from outside gates if they've got enough pace. Another expatriate New Zealand jockey who's been killing him in Sydney in the last couple of years is Shane Dye. In this race coming up, he rides the heavily supported Winged Prayer, and Ray spoke with him earlier.
The horse that beat was Gamble on Me. That horse then ran second, I think, at Rosehill, and then came out and won at Randwick.
Yeah, that's true too. And Elite's Choice run third that day, and she's also won since. The only thing is the wide draw. She's drawn 12, and she can get back a little, and as long as she gets the line and gets a nice clear run.
Well, you've got that long run from the 1,400 metres now, so you have plenty of time to settle it down.
Yeah, that's dead right. It's a very good run, and it gives the horses drawn wide like her today a big chance. The barriers doesn't really matter now.
Shane Dye, who rides Winged Prayer. That filly ran a very good race the other day at Rosehill, when 5th behind Francette. There were plenty of excuses. She didn't have much luck at all, and that followed 2 consecutive wins, one of them at Goulburn, and then a very easy win midweek at Canterbury. Now, what's happening over here at the starting point? In fact, they're past starting time, and yet there's no sign of them being put in as yet. And that can only mean that one of these runners has cast or loosened a plate, I'd imagine. The barrier stalls are obscuring my view of the horses momentarily. I'm just not sure what's happening, although now I notice a couple of them starting to get in. So Will I has moved up into the about number 8 barrier. Wing Prayer being trotted around by Shane Dye behind the gates. Now his Listen Easy being led forward. Listen Easy ridden by apprentice Ray Silburn, trained by Brian Mayfield Smith, who's way out in front of Tommy Smith on the Trainers' Premiership. And he certainly does look a good thing at this stage of the season with about 6 weeks remaining. Something's cast a plate. Which one is it? Right up in the rear corner of the chute. There it is. It's Chez Paris. Yeah, Mick Dittman's mount, Chez Paris. Okay, Chez Paris is okay now. That plate has been remedied. Mick Dittman back on board. All of the other 2-year-olds appear to have gone in. So once Chez Paris joins them, they'll be set. She carries 53.5 kilos today, a lot more than she had when she won recently at Randwick. Craig Carmody rode her that day, and with the allowance she carried only 47, so it's a hell of a rise in weights. Now, Lady of the Castle, drawn close down in about barrier 3. Nigel Tiley in the saddle. By gee, her colours are close to Listen Easy. Red Chime stands well, so does King Crony, and so will I. And final charge, and now they're off. And Academy Miss from the inside gate began very quickly. Lady of the Castle is only fairly away. Wider out, Red Chimes began very quickly, and so will I, showing good pace, racing towards the lead. And Luskin Galaxy even wider, now being hustled up in search of the lead at the end of 250. And Luskin Galaxy out wide shares the lead with So Will I, and Academy Miss getting up on the inside. And close handy, Listen Easy. Lady of the Castle about 5th, but right on top of the leaders. On the fence then, Final Charge, followed by Chez Paris. Further back in the field as they race down the side of the track is Wing Prayer, who's giving them a pretty tidy start. Now back with it is Armament. Red Chimes is second last, and King Crony is last of all. They've got about 700 to go as they near the turn. Academy Miss leads over Listen Easy. Luskin Galaxy in 3rd place on the outside. Final Charge 4th on the fence, and then Lady of the Castle at the head of the others. So Will I on the outside of City Prince, and just behind those Chez Paris. Wing Prayer very badly placed. 7th or 8th on the inside as they turn for home, and now being hard ridden. Further back in the field, Armament and Red Chimes as they turn the corner. Into the straight now, and Academy misses the leader. She got away from them, turning for home. Final Charge on the fence, about to get out of the pocket. Further out, Chez Paris. Chez Paris coming with a big run, is charging up to join her stablemate Academy Miss. Chez Paris, despite a very big weight rise, shot to the lead, 100 out. And here's another one for TJ Smith as Chez Paris draws away to score easily. By golly, she won by 4 lengths to Luskin Galaxy. Final Charge 3rd, Academy Miss 4th, Wing Prayer 5th. At the head of the others, City Prince, then Red Chimes and Listen Easy. Well back, So Will I, followed by King Crony, Lady of the Castle, and Armament pulled up back with the tail enders, and Like a Wrist beat about 3 home. Right, numbers. Gee, that was an easy win. Number 3, Chez Paris, $1.40 and 65, $1.40 and 65. Now, Luskin Galaxy will get second. Dennis McClune on the place tote, any old price, $8.50. And I think Final Charge will be third, ridden by Darren Beedman on the place tote, $1.10. Now, the next is the Cliff Carey welter handicap at 4 o'clock, and Ken Callender's selection in the race is number 2, All Chant. Kenny Callender's tip, race 7, TAB number 2, All Chant. An important break coming up, and then a lot more happening on Wide World of Sports.
Runners are getting ready for the 7th event on the card, the Cliff Carey welter handicap. Oh, Cliffy, Johnny'd have to be just about the oldest, I suppose, of the surviving racing personalities whose names grace today's program.
You're so right, Mike. Cliff, in fact, must be in his early 80s by now. I was very sad and distressed to learn just in the last couple of days that he's not enjoying the best of health. Cliff Carey is one of the most famous names in the history of Australian sporting radio, and a man to whom I owe a very great debt. because it was Cliff Carey who took the punt with me when I was a mere greenhorn more than 20 years ago and gave me my first job in radio at 2GB. That was back in about 1964, and I certainly will never forget the help and kindness that Cliff Carey extended to me a long, long time ago. This race is named in his honour, and it's a big field, a wide betting race, and now we check with Ray Hadley on the wind-tote operations on the event. Thanks, Ray.
Yeah, Tappy, a fitting tribute to Cliff. Eureka Stockade 11-1, All Chant at 9-2, Bold Endeavour a stayer resuming at 100-1, Fix the Date at 8-1, Lingalonga 100-1, Peaceful Joe at 50s, Take Out McCluskey. Now Max Treasure at 4-1. Must Away John this morning quoted around the 4-1, 5-1 mark. On the tote, I think punters are taking unders this horse. 7-4 it is. Heroic Blaze at 100-1, Chief Justice at 40s, Mr Squiggles at 8s, Lucky Century 50-1, Indentation at 33-1, Clear Picture at 80s, Kutzbar at 100-1, and way down the bottom, Strum, John, at 660-1, a field of 16, and Strum, John, that outsider at 660-1. Not often we see horses at that big a price.
No, it's a real optimist horse in the race, Strum, which is by Rebeck, an English sire. Strum is trained by Tony Wildman here at Warwick Farm, a locally trained galloper, and John's course has the mount. He's in the club's colours, incidentally, all pink. One of the runners in the race, one of the fancied runners, is Fix the Date, who seems to race better here than anywhere else. His rider is Jim Cassidy, and Jim had this to say about Fix the Date.
A race here too, which does count for something.
Yeah, well, he's got a liking for Warwick Farm, which is a big start, you know, for any horse. If they've got a liking for a bit of a track, it seems to be a big help to them.
What about the weight? Is he a nice, big, strong horse?
Well, he's not all that big, Ray, but he is very solid and he's muscled up a lot, and I really shouldn't think the 9 stone should worry him too much.
Well, there's the little expatriate Kiwi who's leading them a merry dance in the current Sydney Jockeys Premiership. He's a mile out in front of arch rival Mick Dittman, and he certainly looks to have that end of the Premiership all tied up. Now, with the gates locked into position, they're coming in and standing up quite well. I can see Must Away in the stalls. Indentation moves up to an inside gate. They're running a little late. This was scheduled for 4, so they're about a minute past that already. Although most of these are old stages, experienced horses when it comes to the gates, and they shouldn't give too many problems. All Chant and Lingalonga are stablemates, trained by Paul Sutherland. It was generally considered that Tommy Smith might utilise an apprentice on Eureka Stockade, but he elected to leave Dittman on board, and the horse carries top weight of 59.5 kg. Now the light flashing on top of the gates and the line's taking better shape. Heroic Blaze stands up well, so does Bold Endeavour. Strum in the all pink, and they look to be about set and ready to go. Gates open, off and running, and Strum on the outside began smartly, and so did Lucky Century and Clear Picture, and driving towards the lead in the early part into a good spot was Kutzbar, and not far away when they get going closer down to the inside is Max Treasure getting into a good spot, and Chief Justice not far away either. Now Clear Picture on the outside is just in front of Peaceful Joe when they get going. In third place near the fence then is All Chant, bustled a bit to hold his spot on the inside of Eureka Stockade. Lucky Century out wide, and then Indentation and Must Away's only a couple of lengths off the lead, pushing between horses into a good spot. Further back came Heroic Blaze. Max Treasure got a fair way back in the field with Bold Endeavour. At the head of the others, Kutzbar losing his spot, and then Mr Squiggles Fixed the Date badly placed. So is Lingalonga, and Strum had now gone back to be last of all. 600 metres out, and All Chant with the inside running got through to go to a narrow lead over Peaceful Joe. 2.5 lengths away, Indentation scrubbed along on the inside of Must Away, and then Clear Picture, Heroic Blaze, followed by Eureka Stockade. Bold Endeavour Fixed the Date trying to push up on the inside as they turn for home. All Chant pinched a nice break on them. He booted away All Chant, led by 2 lengths or more to Indentation. Peaceful Joe dropping out of it, then Must Away and Fix the Date coming home well from a long way back. All Chant is clear with 100 to go from Indentation. Fix the Date bursting through in the centre is going after All Chant. All Chant falling in a heat. Fix the Date is absolutely swamping him and got up to win. A miracle win by Fix the Date. Got up to beat All Chant, who felt his weight in the last bit. I think Must Away third in front of Indentation, Mr Squiggles, Heroic Blaze. Max Treasure never got into it, followed by Eureka Stockade, and then Kutzbar, Lingalonga. Peaceful Joe knocked up from Bold Endeavour. Well back, Chief Justice, Lucky Century and Strum, and Clear Picture back with the tail enders. You wouldn't have given 100 to 1 about that on the turn into the straight. Fix the Date. But Jim Cassidy has won many a race this season on horses coming with a storming finishing run, and there was another. Number 4, Fix the Date, $4.25 and $1.30. All Chant just felt his big weight in the last bit on the place tote, 95 cents. And what did I nominate for third? Probably Must Away. I think number 9, it'll get third and will return 65 cents. So the numbers will be 4, 2, 9 on the Cliff Carey Welter at Warwick Farm. Now, the last of the day at 4:35 is the Ken Howard handicap, and Ken Callender's thought is for number 8, Strong Devotion. TAB number 8 from Ken Callender in the last at 25 to 5. We'll see that live, and there'll be plenty preceding it in Wide World of Sports.
Afternoon's program, and I know, Johnny Tapp, of all the callers after whom events were named today, none holds a warmer place in your heart than the fella after whom they named the last.
Mike, you're so right. The late, great Ken Howard, who passed away almost 10 years ago up at Nambucca Heads on the north coast of New South Wales, after pioneering commercial race broadcasting as we know it today. Ken started with 2SM in 1936, then he went across to 2UE, eventually to 2GB, and it was at 2GB that he retired on New Year's Eve 1973 at Royal Randwick, when the last race was called the Farewell Handicap in his honour, and it was one of the most emotional days that I've ever spent on a racecourse. Ken was the man who broke away from the staid style of some of his contemporaries, and he was the first to bring all the drama and colour and excitement of a thoroughbred horse race into people's living rooms, and I think it's fair to say that he revolutionised commercial race broadcasting as we know it today. And certainly I'm very proud and privileged to have spent almost 10 years as Ken's understudy before taking over when he retired at the end of 1973. A great bloke, and I've got a million memories. One day I'll write a book, and certainly there'll be 2 or 3 chapters devoted to the mighty Ken Howard. Ray Hadley, I know that Ken's only a memory as far as you're concerned, but what a great man he was.
Tappy, my biggest thrill in race broadcasting so far was back in 1984 when you threw me the binoculars to call the Ken Howard Welter here at Warwick Farm, and it was won by a horse called Cynical. And I remember as they went to the line, I had a lump in my throat. A great caller, a great guy. King's Chariot 20 to 1, Silver Streak 13 to 2, Half Shilling at 7 to 4, John, but better than that in the ring at 9 to 2. Dark Disguise 15 to 1, Azamore at 30s, Lenny Specht at long odds at 10 to 1, 14 to 10s in the ring, Strong Devotion 6s on the tote, but only 4 to 1 in the ring, Ken Callender's tip. Splendid Ambition at 66 to 1, Absability at 16 to 1, Jemsky at 9 to 1, Silver Grant at 16 to 1, Western Prince at 30s, Ginger Bay at 200 to 1, the bottom one, John, at 30 to 1. I think I might dust off the cassette player tonight and listen to Captain Royal winning the Farewell Handicap, Ken Howard's last broadcast. John, a great call it was, and I know that you at many times look forward to listening to that race again as well.
Yeah, sure do, Ray. Every now and again when I'm in the right mood, late at night, I dig out that old cassette of Ken's last day at Randwick 13 years ago. OK, now they look pretty good. Clouding over considerably now, very dark at Warwick Farm. Now there's one horse to go up, and it looks like Half Shilling. Yep, Ron Quinton's mount, Half Shilling. Not the most ambitious horse in the world, but he's got plenty of ability, and he was just caught the other day by Castle's Best at Rose Hill, and Castle's Best came out to win the June Stakes. So taking a line through Castle's Best, Half Shilling comes into this with big credentials. He's drawn out, but at Warwick Farm, they've got a good straight run to the home turn, and he should be able to overcome it. Ken's selection, Ken Callender's selection, Strong Devotion, is drawn down close to the inside in barrier 3. Dark Disguise disadvantaged by the distance. His recent Randwick win was over 1,600, and he'll have a job keeping up with these, I'd imagine. Bad Galice stands up well in the gate. Splendid Ambition stands nicely. Western Prince is bouncing around a bit in the stall, but now they're off and running. Absability and Dark Disguise and Splendid Ambition are all slow to move at the start. Bad Galice out wide, and Half Shilling began very quickly. Ginger Bay racing towards the lead. Gem Sky prominent, so is Western Prince, and getting right along the inside now, Strong Devotion. Quinton on Half Shilling is just cruising over from the outside. He won't get anywhere near the fence, though. Ginger Bay booting up. Also driving up on the inside is Strong Devotion and Western Prince, and they've got him out very deep now, Half Shilling. Splendid Ambition, after missing the kick slightly, is improving fast along the inside. A couple of lengths away, Bad Galice, and then Azamore, Gem Sky. Further back, King's Chariot, followed by Lenny, and then Absability, Silver Streak, and last, Dark Disguise. Up to the turn with 500 to go, and boy, is it a race. Half Shilling can't get on the track at all. Splendid Ambition got up on the fence to share the lead with Strong Devotion. They turn together clear of Silver Streak and Bad Galice, followed by Western Prince, and Half Shilling in no man's land on the corner. Into the straight now, Strong Devotion went to the lead over Splendid Ambition, but here comes Bad Galice. Bad Galice on the outside at 30 to 1 on the tote, has stormed up to them to grab the lead. Absability flashing down the outside. Bad Galice stopping. Absability swapping it, and Absability got up to beat Bad Galice. Look at Dark Disguise rocketing home. He's in a photo for third with Strong Devotion. Wide out Lenny. Then Gem Sky, Azamore, Splendid Ambition. Further back came Silver Streak. At the head of the others, Silver Grant, followed by Half Shilling, King's Chariot, and then Ginger Bay and Western Prince weakened out of it to run last of all. Absability has come home like a train to win. Ridden by Shane Dye, trained by Bede Horan, raced by Mr. W.J. Woodbury, and on the TAB to pay $8.50 and $2.35. Look at him motor. Absability, Bad Galice, another roughie, looked home and hosed, but had no answer to Absability's finishing run. Live racing action today at Warwick Farm was brought to you with the compliments of Tui's. Let's see any sign of third. It was pretty close between Dark Disguise and Strong Devotion. Now, if you look at this replay, you'll see Dark Disguise back in about 5th spot, wide out in the centre of the track, in the black and pink colours with the white breastplate and white bridle. Now, he is mowing him down in the last bit at an unsuitably short distance. Now, let's line him up with the one over on the inside, Strong Devotion, and see what it looks like. They've got 2 more hops to go yet, so probably Dark Disguise has got up to run third wide out by the time they reach that winning post. 10, 15 and 5. Yes, he did too. Dark Disguise third. 10, 15, 5. That's a lot from Warwick Farm. Hope you're back to few winners. Back to you, Mike.
Thanks, Johnny. If you're hoping to get out in the last, you'll be walking home for sure. And talking of horses, tomorrow...